What are the top 5 accessories for touring this country? We've just come back from a 4-month trip. It's fresh in our mind, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. Let's get into it. So if you're new to the channel, the trip we just completed basically covered going right around Australia. However, 99% of our time was spent from, say, Mataranka, across the Gibb River Road, down the west coast to about Margaret River. And we drove about 8 days to start the trip from the east coast and about 8 days home back to the east coast. So although we went pretty much right round, we really did spend most of the time in the NT across to the west coast and down the west coast itself. So we really did do a fair bit of off-grid. We did a lot of beach camping. We did a lot of big days in the car. You know, we really tried to make it interesting and try to get to some of those places you probably shouldn't tow a 3.5 ton caravan, but hey, that's what it's all about. So that's the basis of, you know, what we did and what we did it in. So let's get into some of the accessories that we used, and we took hundreds of accessories. I'm guilty for, you know, getting caught up with, you know, and blurring the lines between what you really need and what you just really want, and it's become an expensive hobby for me. If you haven't seen our other videos, I really do love camping, touring, and actually just tinkering and building 4 drives and being into all the technology that goes along with it. But I'll give you my top 5, and starting at number 1, a quality fridge, 12-volt fridge, but just as importantly, if not so more importantly, a quality battery setup to go with it. Full disclosure here, we are sponsored by Deep Cycle System lithium batteries, only because I reached out to those guys. I wanted them to be a part of what we're doing because I truly believe they have a good product. I owned them for years before we even started doing YouTube. They've always been there for backup support if needed. They always answer the phone, and the batteries themselves have performed really, really well. So many people go out there and will spend, you know, anywhere from like a cheaper fridge, $600-700 up to say $2,000 for, and let's just talk about a car fridge. Like obviously we had a fridge in the caravan as well. They'll spend all that money on the fridge, they'll mount it, they'll put it in a toolbox or a canopy. Not only that, you know, you go and get an AGM battery and then a DC charger, all the wiring that goes with it, and all those components are great, but it's always and has been for years the battery that lets the whole thing down. An AGM or lead acid battery, and I'm going to probably offend a few people, it's still a bit of a hot topic. I think in this day and age is a waste of money and a waste of time. They just do not perform anywhere near as well as a quality lithium battery, and I think the prices are now cheap enough that a lithium battery is, it just makes so much sense. Yes, they are ultimately dearer, but for the performance you're getting, comparatively, I think they're cheaper. And if you hold on to that vehicle or hold on to that battery long term, eventually I think it will save you money. And not only that, in the process, actually keep your fridge running. Mate, when you're younger and you just, you know, you go and get a lead acid battery and you put it under the bonnet, you hook the fridge up, and you know, you wake up in the morning after opening your fridge 100 times, getting beers out of a night, and you just can't understand, why did it go flat overnight? I got this lump and 100 amp battery. But if you actually start looking at the science behind it and realise that you can't use a lot of the capacity in those lead acid or AGM batteries, and I'm not going to go into that much detail, but what I am going to say, for us on that journey, our electrical system was fantastic, and I do have quite a bit. We got dual lithium batteries under the bonnet of the Cruiser. We have a lithium 200 amp battery in the toolbox of the Land Cruiser, and we had a 400 amp system in the van. And I know that is extreme. You don't really need all that. Again, I'm a bit guilty for the wants, and I like tinkering. So we used that 200 amp lithium battery in the Cruiser mainly to recharge the caravan when it was stationary and we didn't have to start the car. And I used the under bonnet dual batteries of the Land Cruiser to run the fridge in the toolbox and to also start the vehicle, which they can run off the alternator. They charge super fast, so that becomes your start, batteries and your auxiliary all under the bonnet. You don't have to buy a DC charger. I think that is a fantastic system. Again, we are sponsored by DCS. Again, I want to tell you that, guys, because I went and chased them and I truly believe in that system and that product. I'll put a link in the comments below if you want to check them out. Right, so that's number one. Yes, a good fridge, but you need the power to friggin' run it. Otherwise, that fridge will piss you off to no end when it's always flashing error in the morning when you wake up and all your food's gone off, especially if you're doing a long trip. Right. Accessory number two, and I'm just going to go straight into this one. I don't know if these are a 1 to 5 as most important, although the batteries, I really think we use them just about as much as, or if not more than anything else. But I am going to go straight in, and it's come to mind, at a quality air compressor. Not just an air compressor, a quality air compressor. We did have an ARB twin. I know TJM do a nice looking twin. I'm looking forward to getting one of them one time just so I can compare the two. I have always had ARB compressors. I've always had I've had 2 singles over the years. I've gone to the twin, especially pumping up 8 tyres. We use that compressor so much on a trip, like doing so many dirt roads and then beach driving, and if you don't get your tyre pressures right, the ride was shit on dirt roads. You risk doing punctures, and then once on the beach, we were surprised about how low you could actually go in the tyres without doing damage or rolling the bead off, even with that kind of weight. We were 7.2 tonne combined, and it really made a difference in the sand, and it surprised me how far we could tow that kind of weight in the sand with the right tyre pressures. But by doing that, you're letting 8 33-inch tyres down. That is so much capacity to fill back up. And we give that compressor a absolute flogging. People we were travelling with, you meet families on the road, and we ended up travelling with one family particularly and become really good friends with them. He had a cheaper compressor, he blew hoses off, and there were a few times there where it not only pumped my tyres up, it pumped up a mate's. And inevitably, you will eventually do that. If you travel with people, there's always going to be someone that either doesn't have a compressor or theirs shits itself. And look, that got us out of trouble. It did all 8 of our tyres plus 8 of another. And mate, once you do that and you put your hand on it, you could cook an egg on it. It gets that friggin' hot. And it's never let us down. I've had 3 ARB compressors now, not one of them has failed on me, and it is something you will use if you want to get off the beaten track when you do that 4-month trip. So I would say invest good money into a good compressor. Okay, number 3, this is an accessory you really don't need. So why is it in my top 5? Because I really like it. I like what it gives you peace of mind. It gives you ability to be a bit picky, gives you the ability to go a little bit further sometimes, and it gives you the ability to empty your wallet whenever you want. What am I talking about? An extra long range fuel tank. So we have a Brown Davis 110 litre fuel tank in that car, 130 litres standard. Now that is a crazy amount of fuel to some people, 240 litres, but put 3.5 tonne behind that car. The car is nearly 3.9 on its own, and all of a sudden that isn't that much fuel. You really start to use it when you're towing a big, heavy, very tall caravan with the aerodynamics of a brick. It gave us peace of mind more than anything. More than anything, I think the long range fuel tank just gives you the relaxed feel that you're going to get there, you're not going to run out of fuel, because range anxiety is a thing on the road. Australia is a big place, and it is a long way in between towns. Now, I said at the start, you don't really need this accessory, and I stand by that. Many people go and do these styles of trips without an auxiliary fuel tank. I know a couple personally myself, and they prove it that you don't need it. There's enough fuel in Australia to just about get to 99% of places without it. What I'm saying is, though, I loved it as an accessory. I would do it again, and it just, like I said, gave us that, or got rid of that range anxiety.
How'd you go?
Heaps of fuel left. We could have gone at least another 40 k's down the road, I reckon. So yeah, that was a little bit too fine. Some service stations you really like to drive past, either because they don't look like they're well maintained in service, so you've got to really question how good that fuel is, or the fuel is 30 cents dearer than 100 k's down the road, and a lot of the time 100 k's is too far. I would hazard a guess that just about any new vehicle on the market today, once towing 3.5 tonne, is going to be between 17 to 22 litres per 100, right? That's a very generalised comment, I know, and most fuel tanks would say between 70 to 90, 95 litres. Some of the Land Cruisers have 130. The older Prados had 180. They were fantastic. But the majority are going to be in that 70, really probably around 80 litre mark. That gives you about a 300k, 350k safe range. So that 350k's can all of a sudden be making you stop every 200 to 250. If after that 250k's, the next servo is another 250, you're not going to make it. So you can't even use that 3 to 350k safe range. So if you get where I'm going with this, doing big days on the road, sometimes you could stop 4 times just to get fuel. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but I want to stop anyway. Everyone needs a break, which is true. I don't want to stop at a servo though. Let's stop somewhere nice. Anyway, that's my number 3. I would do it again. I really love the long range tank. We've had 3 vehicles now with long range tanks. No doubt if I get another one, I'll be installing a long range tank into it as well. Alright, number 4. Look, it's one of those things that it's hard to get excited about, and when it's time to replace them, it really hurts the back pocket. It's not something that anyone looks forward to. You don't actively go out there just to buy new ones unless they're absolutely knackered, and I'm talking about tyres. But tyres are so important if you want to get off the beaten track, and Mickey Thompson ATZs, these are our 5th set of those, I think, over the years on different vehicles. We obviously even put them on the Caravan. We do believe in them. Why I've got ATZs, I'm really generalising that you need a quality tyre, not just Mickey Thompson's. I have Mickey Thompson ATZs and have had them for 4 or 5 vehicles now because, one, they've lasted and not given me any punctures ever, which now I've said that, I'll probably have a flat tyre tomorrow morning. 2, they, as far as the mud train's concerned, they're fairly quiet. 3, they're pretty good in the wet, which I have driven on others that are horrible in the wet, especially on a 4-wheel drive that has the dynamics of a brick. And 4, they look good. I like the look of those tyres. Look, I mean, that's very subjective. And do you think it's really important? Well, it's not. But we all are wanting to be proud of something we own, so it is something I'll touch on. I think they're a good looking tyre as well. So we have probably covered over 10,000 k's of dirt and corrugations in our time on different vehicles, and like I said, I have never had a puncture, never had a cut, a split, a sidewall. We've had them down low as 8 psi on the front of the Land Cruiser on the trip just gone. We were at like 12, probably 14, 15 psi in the rear, and the same in the Caravan. And we were talking about the weights before. It is a very heavy setup. We never rolled them off the bead. We haven't done any sidewall damage. Look, there's probably tyres out there that can do what these tyres can. I'm just telling you about my experiences. And to take out of this, please go and buy good tyres. It's the last thing that hits the road. At least mitigate the risk as much as possible of having a blowout. Don't forget your whole family's in the car with you, and that would be a very scary thing, especially towing something so big. So yeah, tyres, number 4, very important. Get yourself a good set of tyres. Number 5, and look, there's heaps of other accessories we've added, and I'm gonna go back to the Caravan here. Only gonna bring this one into it because it's something we used most. So this was top 5 accessories. I'm really doing this as what we use the most, and I'm going to say the Weber barbecue.
Throw slam.
And what are you doing with it?
Not much, just chucking it in a tray and putting some olive oil with the veggies, and that's it.
In the past, we've never had a really good space to put a full-size barbecue. We designed the Caravan around the ability to do this by making the tunnel boot, the higher ATX tunnel boot, going to an ATX Caravan had a lot to do with that tunnel boot, not only the suspension. We put a Weber 2200 in there, so it's not a baby Q, and it's got the higher lid, the 2200. The 2000's got the slightly lower lid, and mate, it really changed how we cooked on the road. We did delete the oven in the Caravan when we ordered it, knowing that we will have that space for a barbecue that you can roast in, and it just changed how you ate. Like, we really ate like we were at home, and especially if you're going to do a 4.5 month trip like that, I know you don't need any of this stuff. I'm saying what we really liked. I'm going to get all those haters out there. You know, you don't need that. You can do it with a swag. And look, personally, I couldn't do 4.5 months in a swag, so I'll throw that straight out there. And that luxury of having that Weber was fantastic. You can literally cook anything in it that you could cook in an oven, and I would argue that it would taste better anyway. So if you have the ability or are designing a caravan, really think about where you're going to put a decent barbecue. I would say a pull-out kitchen in a caravan is a waste of money because you have a kitchen inside. Yes, cook outside on the barbecue, set up a little induction cooker so you don't have that smell and moisture in the caravan when you're boiling water. Use the rest of the caravan to store all your knives, plates, forks, and the sink inside to wash up. You don't want to be washing up with the bugs anyway. But the slide out barbecue is on point. I would 100% do that again. If we ever are without a caravan for a long time, I will really miss the ability to have a full-size Weber barbecue, as we use that nearly as much as anything else on the trip. Righto guys, time for a shameless plug. Scoot across to www.smarttouringsystems.com. We've got a bit of apparel there, and don't forget, we are the original creators of the quick fit awning bracket, allowing you to add and remove your awning in seconds. There's quite a few out there on the market now, but support the original, support Australian made, and support us, and we really appreciate the support we have gotten from you guys so far. We also thank DCS for sponsoring our channel, and just recently all 4x4 spares have come on board to help out with the Lance project. So that's it guys, don't forget, you only live once. Get out there and enjoy it. Thanks for watching.